Oh, hello. I did not notice you there. Uh, just the other day, I walked by uh, a fountain pen store, and I thought to myself, wow, those are some nice pens. Maybe someone should do a fountain pen shootout. That's right. Today, we're going to do another fountain pen shootout. I'm afraid my Christopher Walken impression is not entirely up to scratch yet, but I'll work on it. Today, we're going to look at two large capacity pens that are also fairly inexpensive. Today, we'll look at the Airmail Wality 78JT and the Noodler's Ahab pen. I know this one has already been featured in a shootout, but this one hasn't, and I think it makes sense to compare the two. Okay, so I'll show you how to disassemble this one later on. I've already done that for this pen, so I won't do it all again. And I'll do a writing sample to compare the two. So what is this all about? Well, this one I got for $18 and this one for $20, if I'm correct. This is a flex pen, the Ahab, and the Airmail is not. In fact, it is a bit dry and it's fairly fine. However, their big plus, the big thing that sets these pens apart is that they hold huge amounts of ink. The Airmail Wality 78JT is an airdropper, an eyedropper filled pen. And when you fill up the barrel with an eyedropper, it holds 3 milliliters of ink. I'll show you that later on. The Ahab, although it looks a bit smaller here, actually holds 6 milliliters in the barrel. Now that is an insane amount. Okay, I'll show you that later on. The Ahab also comes with a converter, which is what I have inked up right now. But you know, the workings of the pen, of course, are the same, whether used as an eyedropper or as a converter-filled pen. Okay, let's compare the two. The Wality pen is, I think, just a little bit bigger than the Ahab. Wality Ahab. It has a gold-colored nib. I'm sure it's not gold-plated. I think it's too cheap a pen for that. But the two have nibs that are fairly nice to use. So I think they are both fairly smooth. I think the Ahab is a little smoother than the Wality pen, and the Ahab is definitely a lot wetter. I found this Wality pen to be very dry. However, as I show you in the writing sample, if you put a bit more pressure on the pen, it writes just fine. So don't expect a pen that is so dry that it's not useful. Okay, size-wise, as I just said, the Wality is a bit bigger. I think they're both made of this vegetal resin stuff. They both have that peculiar smell to it, so that's what I'm assuming. I'm not absolutely sure what the material of the Wality is. They're both pleasant to hold, and the both pens, what they share is their hugeness when posted. Look at that. That's the Ahab. And here we have the Wality, which is maybe, I think it's even bigger. So if you need a big pen to impress people, you can get either of these. The big advantage of the Ahab is that it is a flex pen. So this has a flexible nib, and as I said, the Wality does not. As to looks, well, you can get the Ahab in a bunch of colors and some demonstrators. You can get the 78JT only with a clear barrel and this type of cap, and there are other, I think there are 4 colors. You can also get the 78J, which I think is the same pen, but then the barrel has the same color as the cap. So if that matters to you, just know that you can also get this as a non-demonstrator. Okay, well, which pen outperforms the other? Difficult to say. I think the Ahab is a bit easier to use. So I would say the Ahab, but the two pens are very nice. So if you're looking for an inexpensive and large capacity fountain pen, buy either one of these. Okay, so that was the rough comparison. I think it's much more interesting to show you how to disassemble it and do a writing sample so that you can really see the two in action. So that's all there's to it. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, so a comparison between the Airmail Wality 78JT and the Noodler's Ahab. Now, first what I'd like to show you is the ink capacity. Now what I do is I just take the section with this interesting converter. I just take that out. I just assume you will use this as an eyedropper because this pen is an eyedropper. So when it comes to ink capacity, here we have one of these little ink vials. I marked that top dash, that is the 6 milliliter mark. Now when I take the barrel of the Ahab and I carefully pour this water in, then you can see that it takes the full vial. So it takes 6 milliliters of ink, which is a sick amount. That's just ridiculous. No pen holds this much ink that I know of. I'm going to pour that back. It won't interfere with the ink because I should dry that out, but for now I'll just leave the water in there. Put this back in. The ink is already in the converter there. Now the Wality pen, we try that too. So now that's a little bit too much. So now it is again up to the threads, as with the Ahab. Sorry about the clear water, but I didn't want to use ink for this. And this is exactly half the vial, so there is 3 milliliters left in there and 3 milliliters in here. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking that 3 milliliters is not enough ink or anything. I'll just dry this off and I just continue talking. Don't forget that this pen, the Ahab, holds a ridiculous amount of ink. I mean, it's fantastic and I absolutely love it, but it's a huge amount. No other pen offers you that amount of ink. So the 3 milliliters of the Wality pen are already a huge amount. I think a standard international short cartridge actually holds something like 0.9 milliliters of ink, so it's not even a full milliliter, whereas this one holds 3, so that's quite significant. I'm just going to do some inking. No, wait. First I'll show you how to disassemble the section of the Wality pen. I won't show you how to disassemble the Ahab because I've already done so in previous videos, but just assume, I mean, take it from me, you can take off the section, you can knock the feed and the nib out, and you can completely disassemble this converter. You can. I'm just not going to show you how. There are other videos in which I do. So, this pen, it's very easy to disassemble. You take any blunt object, I think that's the easiest way to do it. This is one of Richard Binder's feed punchers. I should probably say punches, you don't really... It's not a puncher of the feed. You put it back there, you just push, out comes the feed, and the nib, with a little bit of trouble, but there we go. It's easy enough. So you just take these out, and you clean them, and you are done. So for ease of cleaning, I think this pen is as good as the Ahab, and better than many pens of which you cannot actually remove the feed and the nib because it's friction fit. Okay, so now this is dry again. I'll ink that up. I won't ink it up all the way. I just want to get enough ink in there to get this show on the road. That should work. And now what do I do with this? Well, just put it on my ink cloth. Okay. You may want to add some silicone grease to these threads, but I know they are still a bit greasy, so that should work out. Now, getting this to write is going to be a challenge. Or not. That was easy. Amazing. So, let us start with the Ahab. And let me get some more light here. There we go. Ahab. I love the Ahab. I really do. It's my favorite Noodler's pen so far. The amount of flex here is fantastic. Let's do some writing. This is going to sound scratchy. It's not. I've heard that some people said that their Noodler's Ahabs were somewhat scratchy out of the box. I think mine was too. I can't fully remember. I smoothed it out a bit and it works, as far as I'm concerned, just fine now. I really like it. It's nice to fiddle around with the feed and the nib to get some type of ideal setting, but I think I found mine. For me, this is just perfect. It writes straight away, no startup issues, no skipping. It just works fantastic. I love this pen. Okay. Now the Wality. Just put the lid on my inkwell there. Wality. Here we go. Okay. There were the startup problems I was expecting earlier. 78. J. That was a big scratch. T. Got some paper residue on the nib. I would say out of the box this nib is a bit scratchier than the Ahabs, but then again I seem to have had some luck with my Ahab. It's not a bad nib of this pen, and if you go slow, for some reason this is a pen that seems to make you want to write slowly, which makes a lot of sense, because your handwriting will be better when you go slow than when you go fast. Now, if you go a bit slow, the nib is smooth. It's a bit finer than that of the Ahab, I would say. Of course the Ahab flexes, but even when not flexed, I think this one is a little finer. If I go too fast, I tend to get a very fine, thin line. There's no real skipping here, but it's very fine. If I go a bit slower, I get nicer ink flow. I think I may have to adjust. Jumps over. He keeps jumping, sorry. I may have to adjust the ink flow a little bit. It seems like a feed you can work with, so you can do some DIY stuff on that. So there you go. There is some line variation to be had, but obviously you see that now you get this really nice saturated line, right? It really... Okay, I'm suspecting some ink flow issues here, so maybe widen the channel of the feed a little bit because if this would be wetter, it would be a fantastic pen. It's not that I dislike it now, it's just a bit dry. Maybe I should just put some more pressure into it, because when I do, it seems to write just fine. Well, anyway, I like this pen too. I like the Wality pen. I like its design. I like the way it's used. It's a very pleasant grip to hold. I really like that. Nice and smooth, but with a really good grip. Go a bit slow and it's fine. Maybe widen the channel of the feed a little bit, and I think you'll get a very nice pen. And if you just push down a bit harder than you used to, on a fountain pen, at least harder than I'm used to, I think you get a very nice line anyway. So maybe that's the trick with this pen, it just needs a bit more pressure. In any case, I like them both. Roughly the same price. I paid $18 for the Wality and $20 for the Ahab. With the $2 extra for the Ahab, you do get the option to use the converter, and of course you get flex, which you do not get with the Wality. Then again, flex is not necessarily useful in everyday writing, so, you know, if you're looking for a large capacity pen, the two will work just fine. If you're looking for a cheap pen, the two will do just fine. I think they're two nice pens. So I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.